Sunday, the 28th of May 2023, Urca, the hidden gem in Rio de Janeiro. Copacabana, Rio de Janeiro, 26 degrees, hottish and sunny with clear blue skies. Now that I live in Botafogo, going to Urca on foot is more straightforward than going from Copacabana. Urca is one of the most remarkable neighbourhoods in Rio. Its small bucolic side streets, views of the bay from the Mureta, which lines a large part of Urca, army barracks, which make Urca safer than other neighbourhoods in Rio, and quaint bars and restaurants sprinkled around the neighbourhood make it a must-see. Sugar Loaf Mountain in Urca is one of the main attractions in Rio, along with Christ the Redeemer. I do not talk much about Sugar Loaf, as it is more for tourists than karaokers living in the city. The first time I went to Sugar Loaf, I had already been living in Rio for 5 years, and it was only because my mother was visiting me for the first time when Jessica was 1 year old. You do not need to do much to have an enjoyable time in Urca. Just walk around the quiet tree-lined streets and appreciate the architecture of some of the houses, or eat in one of the various restaurants spread over the whole neighbourhood from one end to the other. Visit the small, quirky beaches with small waves, perfect for small children, or drink and eat bar food looking over the bay, which I have already written about, or just chilling out. You can also walk along the path that lines Morro da Urca, the first mountain before Sugar Loaf. The path lines the mountain and faces the sea. It is fantastic. You can also go off this path and go up a side path that leads you to the top of Morro da Urca without paying. From there, you can see the bay, Niterói, and half the city. Sugar Loaf is also famous for one of the most famous James Bond scenes in Moonraker from 1979. Many events, such as shows, etc., especially in the summer, are held there. It has always been, and probably will always be, one of the most iconic points in Rio. Like the Statue of Liberty in New York, which is situated in Upper New York Bay, Sugar Loaf is similar. When flying or sailing into Rio, you are always greeted with Sugar Loaf and Christ the Redeemer. Urca is one of the most charming places in Rio. It has its own unique atmosphere and vibe, and I love it. I lived in Urca for about a year, approximately 30 years ago. I had already separated from Cibele and worked in Sao Paulo as a consultant for new boat building technology from England to Brazil. I was responsible for a project that should have been a success. Jessica was 18 months to 2 years old, and every weekend I would try to come back to Rio to see her, spend the weekend with her, and then go back to Sao Paulo either Sunday night or early Monday morning. Living in Sao Paulo was incredibly good, but I did not want to lose Jessica's childhood. So after a year and a half in Sao Paulo, I decided to move back to Rio to be near her. Initially, I had nowhere to stay. I briefly stayed at a friend's place. I then found a top-floor Urca flat in front of the bay. I would not call it a penthouse because it was not luxurious enough to be considered that, but it was on the top floor with an enormous terrace balcony in front of the water, the bay and all of Rio. It was surreal to walk out and see the bay, especially at night with the lights from the other neighbourhoods and the street lights from Mureta on the other side. I had both good and bad experiences during my stay in Urca. What also amazes me about Urca is that very few karaokers have ever been to Urca or do not know Urca at all. Many have never been, some have only been once or maximum twice, and others need to see its charm. This is where we are entering into another area of Brazilian culture. I have noticed that karaokers, or Brazilians in general, need to learn how to value Brazil and its culture, what it has, what is good, and what is around it. There are many beautiful statues spread throughout Rio, mainly because of when Rio de Janeiro was the capital of Brazil. Walking around Rio, you will find many interesting urban sculptures, but you never see people stopping to admire them. If you see someone stopping to admire, it is probably a tourist from another state or abroad. For me, it is ingrained in the Brazilian culture not to value what they have and what is already there in front of them to at least preserve. It is a fact that many Brazilian artists only received fame and recognition in Brazil after being discovered abroad first. Brazilian handicrafts from the northeast of Brazil only became popular and valued internally in Brazil after being discovered by people from outside of Brazil. I think the Brazilian government and past political and social actions have something to do with this. Urca is an extraordinary place in Rio, and Rio is an extraordinary city in Brazil, and both are underappreciated and undervalued by their people. So, why am I talking so much about Urca? On Saturday, I did my usual exercise routine, walked to Urca and stayed there for about 2 hours. I walked around, took many photos and all that it has to offer. I arrived home at about 1 p.m. and we had a late lunch later that day. For dessert, I treated all of us to ice cream at the ice cream parlor next to our building. The ice cream there is particularly good, and the price is even better. Yasmin is trying to befriend me, but I do not want to. It is cheaper for me if I don't. In bed by 10 p.m. Thank you very much. Thanks for reading my blog. Check out my other posts and share your thoughts in the comments. Richard. Photos by Richard George Photography.